Hey, what's up? I'm still here. I didn't die. Don't worry. I had this lying around still after Mangs uploaded 2-P. So that's how old this is. Enjoy it. What's up guys, this is Mekkah, and I'm doing a mini-waifu real quick about Elincia, because there were some questions about the rating I gave her in Mangs' playthrough, so I thought it would be a good opportunity to make a quick video about her. Because I don't think she's interesting enough to talk about for like 25 minutes or something and do like super elaborate edits and everything. Elincia's like, she's a very interesting class, but I don't think it warrants like a super proper analysis. But I do want to talk about her a little bit, because there were people saying that I should have given her like 4 or 5 stars, and I gave her 3. So just listen to my rating real quick so you know what I'm talking about.
Pretty much. Alright, let's talk about Elincia. So Elincia, she's pretty good in this game. Too bad she doesn't get her personal sword until the last chapter, though. I think she's only available in 2 chapters total in part 2, like the first one and the last one.
Yes.
And then she doesn't come back until part 4.
Yep.
Her bases are ridiculously good, but the queen class that she is actually a 3rd tier class. This sort of makes Elincia a little bit hard to use in the endgame, because while her growths are decent, she doesn't have much potential to grow because she only has 19 levels to grow.
Come on, she caps everything. Get out of here.
She does?
I don't know about, like, she has 19 levels still. It's a lot. She is fine. Don't worry.
Well, I didn't find her very good in the endgame at any rate, because, I don't know, I feel like when she joins in part 4, there are other units that are better than her, but she's a viable staff bot, I guess. Is she forced in a tower? I can't remember.
No.
No, she's not.
She's not.
But for this part, I mean, they have the fucking audacity to put a fucking slim sword on her. So while her stats are really good for this part, she struggles dealing any meaningful damage to the Wyverns because, again, she has 21 attack due to having the worst sword in the game. If they gave her just like a fucking iron or steel sword, she would have been so much better in this part. But I think the point is to just have her play a supporting role. She can still heal, which is really nice. She does have the stun skill though, which gives her a chance to deal triple damage, which is still not enough to actually one-shot these Wyverns. That tells you about how shitty her damage output is. But it paralyzes them for 1 turn, which is sort of nice. Once she gets her personal weapon though, the Amiri, she can kill everything pretty much. Like, I think the final boss of part 2, I think she can like 1-round him quite easily if she proc stun, which is kind of funny. Because she's like, oh, you're just a weak ruler, and she just goes and fucking one-shots the guy. So yeah, I like Elincia. I rate her 2 out of 5 stars. I think she's a perfectly serviceable unit.
3?
3 stars, yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Her turn.
Yeah, Elincia is like widely different depending on what chapter you're talking about. Like this chapter, she's pretty much a staff bot that can kind of defend herself and like tickle enemies with her slim sword with like no damage, which is kind of funny. But at least in normal mode, it gives her weapon triangle, which is kind of cool. And like end game of part 2, she like gets the Amiri. She gets +3 defense, +3 resistance, and an amazing offense boost that like it hits 4 times. And Amiri in Path of Radiance, it was like super weak. It had like 6 might or something returned like that.
Yeah.
But then in this game, it has like 12 or something. It's insane. It's like a super good brave sword that also gives you like a lot of chances to proc stun and gives the defense boost like I just talked about. It's just really good. And my phone just gave me an alert, but I don't care.
Fire Emblem Heroes!
Yeah, you haven't played for a while. What are you doing, Mekkah?
Your stamina's been restored.
Yeah, so endgame she's really good, and then she disappears until part 4. When she comes back in part 4, her stats are kind of low for that point of the game, because as you can see, these bases are like maybe on par with like the Guerrilla Mercenaries at the start of part 3, but by that time it's like the end of part 3, beginning of part 4, so that's like very underleveled, but there's like plenty of bonus experience at that point to get her up, at least in normal mode. Not sure how your bonus experience is going to look in hard mode, especially when you're planning on raising choke units, I'm sure. So it might be hard to get her up to par, but I will say, like, her potential, like, if you want to talk about the number of levels she could potentially get, she's totally fine. On average, she caps strength at level 20. She gets like 30 skill, which is not nearly her cap, but it's still good enough. She caps speed at 35. She caps her luck at 40. And with the Amiri taken into account, she has like 25 defense and 33 res. I think that's like a perfectly serviceable unit for endgame. If you're talking about potential, like I'm not saying she's always going to make it to level 20, but if she does, she's as good as any unit you get in like tier 1 or tier 2. I don't think the tier 2 class is really hurting her. It does hurt her XP gain for this part of the game, because you can't really give her like experience by killing enemies, but she can still heal and everything to get XP. You get a Min staff now, you get a Physics staff later. She can get quite a bit of experience with that. So I think that's actually pretty good. I like Elincia a lot. It's just he's not around a whole lot, and for that reason, I'm sort of torn between 3 and 4 stars, and as I said, Radiant Dawn ratings are just so hard to do. But I will go with 3 stars as well.
Right.
I think she's good, but she's not around enough for me to justify 4 stars.
Okay.
But she's very, very good. Also, she flies.
Yep.
Flying is great.
Yeah, and she's got great staff rank, which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so the usual reasoning for giving Elincia a good rating that people posted in the comments were like the usual, like she has a meaty, which is a brave sword, which is super good, and it gives her a defense bonus and a resistance bonus, and it's super powerful, and she kills everything, and she has also staff utility, and she flies. And I'm like, yeah, that is all true, but I took that into account. You don't have to tell me that she has all that stuff. I know, but the problem with Elincia is that most of the time, she's not a ridiculously good unit, okay? I reserve 5 stars for ridiculously good units. And Elincia's good, but she's not super amazing. The only map, I think, where she comes close to being super duper amazing is 2 Endgame. But, you know, let's go over Elincia's maps that she is in, because, you know, there's not a whole lot of them. So in 2 Prologue, what she does is mostly for her own benefit. Like, she can heal people, but her and Lelouch are, like, basically invincible. They don't need healing, and Lian just gets captured. She doesn't need healing. So the only person she can heal that really gets anything out of it is Marcia. And Marcia can just heal herself with the vulnerary kills on her own. Now, it's true that she can attack more often if she wasn't busy healing herself, but that's only really for Marcia's benefit, because 2 Prologue is a survive map, a defend map. It can't go any faster than it already does. You can't save turns. You can't complete the objective any faster with Elincia's help. And Marcia herself, giving kills to Marcia is only really beneficial to Marcia. It doesn't really do a whole lot for your team as a whole. It's nice if you want to train Marcia, but considering all the comments about how Marcia shouldn't have been like a 4-star unit and how she wasn't like good in this game compared to Path of Radiance.
And like you said, her strength is also kind of garbage in this game. She's not nearly as good as in Path of Radiance. I've never seen it in action. I'm not really convinced it's worth of more than 3 stars. So I'm gonna go with 3 for now. Maybe she'll prove me wrong, but I'm open to being proven wrong. But for now, I'm gonna say 3 stars.
I don't think everyone really is that worried about training Marcia. I don't think a whole lot of people use her in Radiant Dawn. Some people might, but the fact is a lot of the time you don't. And if that's the case, 2 Prologue is basically just getting XP on her, the map, really. And Elincia healing doesn't really do anything except give Elincia experience, which is nice for her, but it doesn't really help me to give Elincia experience. So she doesn't really, like, 2 Prologue, it's hard to be a really good unit. It's like the argument that Lin in the event map isn't really contributing to the objective. It doesn't really help very much. Then in 2 Epilogue or 2 Final, she's really good, I will admit. She's not your best unit, that's easily her, and I would argue Lian maybe. But she's up there, she's really good. But again, she doesn't really contribute to a fast clear, because this time, you can just run hard down, kill the boss, and that's it, the map is over. So that's the efficient playthrough of 2-E in a nutshell, you just kill it with hard. I'm not saying that's everything, like that's a pretty big part of it in a fast playthrough, but in a more casual playthrough, sure, she's a lot better, you know, she can fly around, she has Canto, which is really good with Lian and with healing and with physic, and she can kill everything because she has the immediate, which is great. But there is an asterisk to her performance here, an asterisk, I should say, and that's that she dies to crossbows, and she takes a lot of damage from just generic bows, so she has to be careful, and this is important, she still has to be careful, and that means that, it's like, this is her best performance, this is her best map ever. Now, if she had this performance everywhere across the game, I would say definitely she's a 5-star unit, assuming she's around a lot, but she's not. And she's still, like, vulnerable to crossbows, which I think is significant. If you want to be, like, a super good unit, having this kind of a weakness is pretty big. Like, Har, for example, is weak to Thunder Mages, but at least he still takes a hit from them. He survives unless he gets crit. But Elincia just gets wrecked by a crossbow. She's not going to dodge either, so it's pretty risky. So she still has to be very careful. She's not like Nyla or Tabarn, where she just annihilates the whole map. Not that easily. So she's good, but she's not super good. She's good enough. I would still give her like 5 stars if all her maps were like 2E and she was around a lot, but she's not. So that's her peak. That's the best map she has, and then she leaves, and she doesn't come back until part 4. She's not around in part 1 or part 3. She only comes back in part 4. So even if a unit is that good, even if flying and healing is all that good, which I argue would be great, it would be great in other games, but it's not super great as it would be in other games. It is Radiant Dawn after all, so things are a little bit different. But it doesn't help that she's not around at all in part 3. Like, that really hurts the unit actually. Take a more mediocre unit, like, I don't know, in a more mediocre class, like, I don't know, Boyd or Mia or Oscar or something. Sure, they're not super awesome or anything, but at least they're around and they're helping. They can like collect brownie points, I like to call it. They can help you for a lot of the map that they're in. Even if they're not the best unit, they can still do a little bit. And Elincia is just not there. She's not doing anything. She gets 0 points. And only in part 4 does she start getting points again. So I feel like it's fair to penalize her for that. Now I know Radiant Dawn is like a really awkward game to get these unit rating in. And that's why I was happy that Kirby Master made the good points in the comment section. It was like, you know, Radiant Dawn is a really awkward game to give ratings for because the units are flip-flopping around so much different armies, different availability. It's really not a good idea to try and go off a single star rating, which is why for characters like Soth, for example, who differ so much across the maps, I've been saying 5 stars part 1 and then maybe like 1 star in part 4. That's just how he is. And a single rating doesn't really reflect all that much. And the same kind of goes for Elincia to a lesser extent, because I feel like Elincia's goodness fluctuates a little less, but it's still very awkward to give her 1 rating when she's really different units in like 3 different maps. Like in 2P, she's very different from 2E, and then in part 4, she's very different from those again. But at some point, she does rejoin in part 4, and our combat isn't super OP anymore. It's just good, and that's with some investments. Like when Elincia rejoins, no matter how much effort you put into physicking with her, she's probably not going to be among your top tier units. She can still get to a point where she's reasonably self-sufficient and one-round killing enemies regardless of difficulty. I don't have the numbers on me, but I know that even in like speedruns, she needs a couple procs to start one-rounding again. But it can be made good, and you have the bonus experience to make it work. So it's not the worst, but she's not Har, she's not Tabarn, she's not Jill, she's Elincia. She needs speed procs to quadruple, and she needs strength to one-round kill. That's how it is. So she's still not amazing, and she also doesn't have 1-2 range with the Amidi, which also makes routing in part 4 a little more of a chore. Now for healing, which I've been glossing over mostly now, but I guess I'll talk about it. So in 2P, as I said, it doesn't really do a whole lot for you. In 2E, it's nice if you're taking it slowly. In part 4, the most units that you should be using to route the maps, they can be expected to stay alive on their own. Like in our first part 4 map, you're usually splitting your units far apart so they can route a section on their own. Like Tabarn can go off his own and kill a bunch of stuff. Whoever else you're sending with the Hawk army can generally do it. Or even if they can't do it all on their own, like survive all the way through, what you can do, especially if they have Canto, is like use a vulnerary and go somewhere where you're safe. So that way, a unit, if they need healing, they're probably not all that great. And even if they do, there's a good chance it doesn't even slow them down, because most of the combat in the enemy phase heavy maps is done on enemy phase. So not being able to attack on player phase isn't as huge of a deal as it would be in like a GBA game, for example, or a game where player phase is more important. Route maps are just mostly enemy phase focused. So I don't think healing is all that great in part 4. And the second part 4 map, in fact, is the shortest of them all. So Elincia has like the least amount of time to get credit there. It's just every other part 4 map pre-endgame is just a route map. But the second part 4 map is just kill Izuka and you win. That's it. So the only reason to stick around is because you want to farm the Lagoons for EXP. And I don't give heavy weight to strategies where you wait around to kill things and slow yourself down on purpose just because you want to train. And if you do it, sure, Elincia can help. She even has like the Mercy skill that you could give to her to make it easier to train units. But again, if you go super slow, if you're doing optional things that you don't need to do to complete the game, I don't give a whole lot of credit to that. And also, it's worth noting that the dragons and the tigers, lagoons and stuff, they're pretty strong, so they could hurt Elincia quite a little bit if you like have her do enemy phase. So again, she's not Tabarn in this map. She's not super invincible. She's actually mortal. She's, you know, I would still say she's a good unit. She can help you train, she can help you heal, but it's not super great or anything. And endgame, it's honestly not very different. Like, people talk about her as if she has like a super amazing endgame, but she's not a Lagoons Royal, okay? She's good enough, and like, you might say like, why do you keep comparing her to like the best units ever? That's because some people wanted me to give her 5 stars, okay, when she's hardly even around. Someone like Kanigas, someone like Tabarn, I would give him 5 stars if they were around a lot. I'm super close to giving them 5 stars to begin with, just because of how overpowered they are, but Elincia is not one of those units. She's not that good. But yeah, endgame maps, they can all be done very quickly, and the only map that I would think Elincia really helps in a lot is the first one. That's a route map, but it's just a bunch of generals, honestly, and generals that she doesn't KO in one round without a stun. And her chance to proc stun is high, but it's not guaranteed. She also doesn't have 1-2 range again. This is also a big problem in the Dragon map in 483. Now, one thing Elincia can do is help with rescue staff strats. Those are pretty interesting. Those are definitely a thing she can do. But like, no one brought that up in the comments, so that's a point for me, not a point for you. Okay, nah, I'm just kidding. It is something that Elincia can do in like faster settings, which is pretty cool. But again, depending on what units you use, how many shells you have available, how you're utilizing Raphael, you might not need all that much rescue range. And you also have like a lot of other candidates who can also use the rescue staff. In general, you don't need to use it more than once. So if you're not having Elincia use it, there's probably someone else who could do it. So it's not something that she exclusively provides to your army. So I don't give it a whole lot of credit. Like Mekkah, for example, is forced into the tower, and she generally has pretty high magic. So usually you'll have someone who can rescue staff almost as good as she can, if not better, depending on how they've been trained. It is good, but it's not amazing. So overall, you could argue that she's like maybe 4 stars in endgame if you're really generous. I don't think it's worth 4 stars, but whatever. But that still leaves the availability problem, right? Elincia has 4 maps before endgame. 4. You know who else has 4 maps? Tormod, Muarim, Nyla, Raphael. And these units are really standout in some of the maps they're in. Like, Nyla is far and far away the strongest units you have in every map before them. But she only got 4 stars just because of availability. So if Nyla doesn't deserve 5 stars, why would Elincia deserve 5 stars? And I would argue that Nyla is like a tier above Elincia, which is why, you know, Elincia got 3 stars. Raphael is the best hero and he's super broken in every map he's in, but he's only in 4 maps, so I gave him 4 stars. Tormod and Muarim, I will admit they're only super good in half the maps, just the part 1 maps, they're really bad in part 4. I only gave him 2 stars, so I put Elincia a tier above them. But now you want Elincia to get like 4 or 5 stars when, you know, Tormod and Muarim are, I wouldn't say equally good as Elincia or anything, but I feel like she's closer to them than she is to someone like Nyla or Tabarn or Har or something. Like, I feel like they're more similar. And keep in mind, 3 stars, it's not a bad rating, okay? I think Elincia is good, but I reserve 5 stars for units that are around a lot and they're super good. And 4 stars is for units that are one of those, but not both. So you can imagine someone like, you know, like Nyla. She gets 4 stars because she's super, super good, but she's only around for a little bit. And then, or it's for units that are around a lot, but they might not be very good. I don't know, maybe some of the Grill Mercenaries, maybe Mia, maybe Oscar, maybe Boyd, maybe Zyhark, maybe Nolan. And then 3 stars, I think is pretty fitting for Elincia. It's still like, for advice on how to use her, you really just gotta listen to her rating and listen to what I actually say about in what map she's in. Because I would recommend you use Elincia in pretty much every map she's in, but that doesn't mean I'm gonna give her 5 stars. For a yes/no answer on whether to use the unit, a star rating really isn't a good way to judge a unit overall. Like, you gotta use it, you gotta look at individual maps that she's in to see whether she's worth using or not. It's really, in Radiant Dawn is just all over the place. So the rating system, not the greatest thing for Elincia, but I think if you're gonna apply it to her, then 3 stars is perfectly fair. So that's it.